many people think that, you know, it is something to pity in other people. And I am sure there are people who have the poor me attitude about it, but I'm really blessed in that I am able to cope so well with my illness. I know many people who have fibromyalgia who are unable to either take the pain meds or to get coverage for the pain meds, etc., or are simply unable to get a diagnosis, or don't have a support network in order to help them out with their daily lives. So please don't say, I'm sorry to hear that or whatever, because really, I don't have it that bad. We've got another call in, so let's see what they have to say. Hello there. Hello there.
Hello.
Did you have a
How
question?
are you? Do you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Did you have a question? Apparently they couldn't hear me.
How can other people help you? Like me or someone else?
I don't require help from random people. I require help from my friends and family. So when I'm having a bad day, I might need either emotional support or somebody to run errands for me, etc., etc. Hello, Youssef. How can I help you?
Hi, Angie. I
Yeah.
was just wondering what is really fibromyalgia? What is exactly? Because I've never heard about it.
It is a fairly common and yet unheard of illness. I'm going to relink the wiki link because it is a really good place to start when you have questions about fibro. But overall, it's a long-term illness that affects you systemically. So it's not just pain, it's not just your mind, it affects everything. It exists in your brain, so it affects your whole body because that's your control center. So it's sort of like somebody's messing with your wires, similar to something like multiple sclerosis, except that there's no physical damage, whereas multiple sclerosis is a degenerative disease that you can actually eventually die from because it just gets worse and worse on your actual body. Whereas fibromyalgia is something that while the symptoms can get worse, the illness itself doesn't technically get worse because it's not doing any physical damage, if that makes sense.
Is it curable?
No, it is not currently.
Oh, it's not good.
They cannot figure out what causes it, never mind how to cure it.
Do they, for example, they made some medicine that can at least reduce the...
We can treat the symptoms, but largely it's pain management at this point. So the medication that I take that are not simply vitamins to keep my body overall as healthy as possible are simply to keep the pain at bay. I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. We lost Pitbull. I think he didn't have a very good internet connection, but he was asking, what can people like myself do for you, Angie, about your illness? There's nothing that the internet people, like my lovely following, there's nothing that I necessarily require from you. If you want to do something to help, then one of the best things you can do is find out where you can donate to fibromyalgia research, because the more donations they get, the easier it is for them to find a cure, right? Same as cancer or anything else like that. I'm not here looking for handouts. I'm simply here to educate. And if I can, to support anyone who's going through the same thing, because I'm blessed to have a really good support system. So I'd like to be able to share that as much as humanly possible.
I don't know. Here where I am, I've never heard something similar. Fibromyalgia. That's why I was wondering what is it exactly.
A lot of people are misdiagnosed because it is an illness that mimics so many other symptoms. As I said, it's systemic, which means that it affects your whole body. So the way that it affects me today might mimic something like multiple sclerosis, while tomorrow it might mimic pregnancy, or it might mimic what's that one that you get when you sit at your computer too long? The carpal tunnel. I've been told that it could be so many different things. Arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis especially.
So is there anything that can cause fibromyalgia, a substance or something?
There are a lot of theories that they think that it could be caused by, but really they have no concrete answer to that. It is often triggered by some sort of physical trauma. So while I have been experiencing symptoms as far back as at least the age of 14, I experienced a spine injury at age 17 that seemed to accelerate the illness itself. So when your body has to deal with physical trauma, then underlying illnesses come to the surface. So the same thing is if you have a flu, suddenly other symptoms are harder to deal with, like a toothache or what have you. Or if you're tired, then suddenly that stubbed toe that you had earlier is throbbing. It's the same sort of thing, that because my body was already ill, all of a sudden this underlying illness came to the forefront and it was easier to see.
Yes, yeah, I see that.
Anybody else who's watching, feel free to ask questions in the chat. So where do you hail from today, Youssef?
I'm in Morocco.
Morocco. How long have I had fibromyalgia? It's something that's difficult to nail down because they, again, aren't sure what actually causes it, and it's not something that you can easily test for. It's a diagnosis of exclusion. I've been exhibiting symptoms as far back as at least the age of 14. I am currently 30. And I've been diagnosed for about the last 4 or 5 years. I've been taking pain medications for the last 5 or 6 years to help with the severe pain of fibro. I've been dealing with it largely since I was about 17. As I said, I had a back injury that exacerbated it. But as far as they can tell, you probably have it your whole life. I have friends who also have the same diagnoses, and their pediatricians have said these symptoms that you've had since you were 2 years old suddenly make more sense, that it was obviously because of the fibro. I hope that answers your question, Klaus. And I'm in Ontario, Canada, by the way. Which for me is a boon because in Canada we have a really great healthcare system. So most of the medications that I take are covered by the government and by my health coverage, whereas many places it's not covered. So I have a friend who is in the States and has the same illness and has to pay for all of her medical appointments as well as all of her medications. Whereas very few of my medications are out of pocket. You'd like to speak with me, but your English is not very well. Okay, well, keep typing then. My every other language is not very well. I use Google Translate a lot when I'm trying to speak with somebody who doesn't speak English. You speak Spanish. Use Google Translate. Type it into the translation matrix and see if it will spit out the right language, and then copy paste it. You study kinesiology or you practice kinesiology? You're a kinesiologist. Cool. One of my best friends, her husband's actually a kinesiologist, and he does a lot to help both of us with our pain. So I'm a huge fan of kinesiology in general. Hello again, Imbad. We can't hear you, Imbad. You may need to refresh the page.
Do you hear me?
There we go.
Sorry?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I want to have my life partner. Can you help me?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up again, dear.
I want to set my life partner. Can you help me?
Sorry, you want to...
I will type it.
You're going to have to type it into the chat, hon. I can't hear you.
Okay.
For your life partner. Why is it that you think that I can help you with this?
Hmm?
Why do you think that I can help? Sorry, are you answering the question in the chat, Imbad?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm not receiving it. Again.
I am a life coach, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I can help you find your life partner, and that's not why I'm here today. If you have questions for me, you can reach out to me by email. It's the nerdy, if I can spell my own email address, companion@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you about anything, but that's not why I'm here today. Does anybody else have any questions about fibromyalgia? And hello, Tet. Welcome to the conversation. Bye-bye, Embad. I'm sorry I wasn't able to help. So one of the biggest questions that I get about fibro is, oh, hold on a minute. Let's ask Google Translate what this is saying. Google Translate. In Chile, we treat fibromyalgia with exercise, manual therapy, and some drugs. And that is certainly a way to look at it. Unfortunately, with fibromyalgia, exercise only does so much, and sometimes it can exacerbate the problem. But it is definitely a delicate balance of what is too much activity and what is not enough. I am often bedridden for days, if not weeks at a time, because I simply do not have the energy to get up to do anything other than walk back and forth to the toilet. There are other times that I feel superhuman and I feel like I could leap tall buildings and lift large children. And I will spend a lot of my uptime, we call it, doing those things. I don't have any children of my own, but I have a lot of friends who have kids, and I love spending time with them. I'm the professional auntie. I don't have enough energy to do it every day, but I love the time that I get to spend with my kids. My upstairs neighbor actually has one of my nephews, and he's 1.5 years, and I love spending time with him. Saturdays are usually dedicated to him and I. And I have other friends in the area who have kids. I most recently got to spend some time with one of my 6-year-old girls, and we got to have a tent day. So we made a blanket tent and colored all day, and that was probably one of the best things for me, never mind her. I had a great day. Just relaxing and coloring. This other question was, have you tried chiropractic acupuncture? I have issues with chiropractic methods because once you start chiropractic, you have to keep going, because the way that it affects your body, you have to keep going back for treatment after treatment after treatment, and it's not something that's covered by my healthcare. So I don't want to start something that I'm not going to be able to afford to continue doing. I do know people who swear by it, and I do not discourage anybody to try it, but that's my personal reasons for not trying it. As far as acupuncture goes, I have an issue with sharp objects. People keep trying to talk me into it, and I keep trying to talk myself into trying it. Spiritually, I think that it would be good. I agree with the practice of acupuncture. And again, I have people who talk about it. I get that it's not completely correct about the chiro, but even chiropractors have told me that it's not necessarily something that I want to do until I have no other options because of how it affects me and my body. I haven't done enough study about chiropractic itself to know the ins and outs of it, but those are my reasons. And like I said about the acupuncture, it's just something that kind of freaks me out. There are TENS machines that you can get, which are electrical impulses that do sort of the same thing as acupuncture, and I've tried those out. A friend of mine, Kaylin, actually has a set at her house, and when I visit, but she's in another city, so when I visit, I usually use it, and it's a very expensive, amazing piece of technology. It's about $250, but I think it's something I'm going to have to invest in because it certainly is very effective with pain that a regular massage just can't get rid of. So, hello, Kevin Cow. Welcome to the conversation. Any other questions, please, by all means, chime in. I'm here to answer as many questions as humanly possible today. And make myself hoarse. I'm also just getting over a flu, so if I'm a little snuffly, please forgive me. So one of the common questions that I get about fibromyalgia is, what do you do to treat it? There is no treating. There is only managing. And really, it's a matter of self-discipline. It's a matter of keeping yourself as well rested and as healthy as humanly possible. I know I say that a lot, but there's only so much you can do. So it's as humanly possible. As a general rule, I try to avoid places like the hospital because it's a place that I can pick up a lot of just regular viruses that my body really can't deal with. I have a lowered immune system. I am one of the people who is not able to be immunized by live vaccines because it just makes me sicker. I learned that the hard way with the flu vaccine, let me tell you. So a lot of people who swear by anti-vaccination, I take exception to, because there are vaccines that I cannot get because of my illness, that if people around me were immunized against, then I would be a lot safer and healthier overall. So that's my particular contest to anti-vaccination. I try to avoid public transit as much as possible, but if I have to use public transit, then I will wear gloves, so like even just like winter gloves, and then take them off once I get off the bus, because there's just so many bacteria that my body can't fight off. It's not that I'm a germaphobe, it's that my body can't tolerate the same germs that a healthy human being could. Tet says, I've heard of a syndrome is that you get the feeling of drowning inside. Do you mean like drowning emotionally or drowning liquid-wise? liquid. Thankfully, that's not something that I generally experience outside of having a really bad chest cold. It is something that some people experience. It's a respiratory symptom. Sometimes it's physical, so there actually is something in the way, whether it's, sorry, I've got somebody else calling in. Whether it's that.
Hey, baby. Yeah.
Hello, hon. Did you have something to contribute?
Yeah. I want to tell everybody that I'm Dre, baby. Y'all can find me on the Periscope. I'm the best person, and I love you.
Thank you, but that's not what I'm here for. You have a great day.
Oh. Ooh.
Sometimes it's that there actually is liquid in my chest or in your chest, the patient in question. Sometimes it has something to do directly with your heart. Anytime you feel like that, you should obviously see a doctor, because it is something that can be very dangerous if you don't know what its cause is. Often it will happen during shifts in barometric pressure, though shifts in barometric pressure are pretty much a trigger for any and all symptoms. But I don't get it very often, thankfully. Does that answer your question, Tet? Awesome. Most welcome. So yeah, with fibromyalgia, it generally comes down to just managing your overall health. I take a ridiculous amount of pills first thing in the morning, and only 3 of those are prescription. 2 are for pain, and 1 is for anxiety. The rest of them are vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B12, and omega-3. And I use a prenatal vitamin as opposed to just a regular multivitamin, because there are a lot of extra stuff in it that is really good for my body. I'm not telling guys who have fibro to take a prenatal, because I have no idea how it would affect you. But any females who have fibro, it's certainly something to look into. Make sure you check with either your doctor or your pharmacist before you add supplements to your general rotation, though, because some supplements can either exacerbate existing illnesses or symptoms, or have conflicts with any other prescription meds that you might be on. Especially the B12. If you're a cancer patient, if you have gout, if you have, I don't remember the other list of issues, then you have to be careful with B12, because it can cause other problems. I am on a dosage of 4,000 international units per day for vitamin D, because I was dangerously low. Low vitamin D can actually lead to something as eccentric as schizophrenia. So it is certainly something to take a look at. It's not something that your regular tests will test for. It is something that you have to request. And even in Canada, which a lot of our tests are covered, even in Canada, it's about a $35 personal charge to test for vitamin D, unless there are very specific circumstances. I don't remember what the specific circumstances are, though. What else do I take? The omega-3, I take the maximum daily dose. And because I take so much, I am able to take the vitamin D without having to eat with it. However, if you're going to take vitamin D, make sure you eat fatty foods with it, fat solubles, because your body needs that in order to be able to properly make use of the vitamin D. Otherwise, it's just going through your system. I also have to keep an eye on signs of liver and kidney failure, which my first round of self-check is to actually check the color of my urine. If it gets too dark, then I have to make sure I up my fluid intake. Your average fluid intake is supposed to be 8 to 10 cups per day, and that's cups in milliliters, not cups as in cups, because this is obviously more than 1 cup. However, I have to ingest a lot more to make sure that I flush my system out. You don't want to drink too much water, because you can actually give yourself a heart attack doing that, because your body depends on electrolytes to keep it running. Your entire body is an electrical system. If it doesn't have enough salt in your blood, then it can't function properly. And if you're urinating too often, you're actually flushing all the electrolytes out of your system. I take electrolyte supplements as well as having to put salt on my food, though I hate it because I have low blood pressure to begin with, plus the extra fluid intake. For me, electrolyte supplements come in the form of Meosport. It's a sugar-free electrolyte supplement. It's sort of like drinking Gatorade, except I add it to my glass of water. For me, it's about $2.50 for this, and depending on how strong you like your drink, it can last you quite some time. I have several different flavors to pick from because I get bored of just drinking blue water all the time. 10,000 international units of vitamin D per day for this particular person. I envy you. I do not envy you that task. That's a lot of pills to swallow. Do you take that all at once, or do you take that dispersed throughout the day? I might not get an answer for that one. Any other questions out there, folks? Anybody else want to call in and ask me questions about my illness? Oh, we're a quiet bunch today. I'm a lot better at this when I have somebody to talk to. The most frustrating part of my illness for me is the cognitive dysfunction. So the things that affect my concentration, my ability to communicate, my ability to process information. What is my main coping method? Tet, you used it as the word take. Do you mean like what pills that I take, etc.? Or do you mean like what I do to help in a daily situation? Dealing with it daily, actually my cell phone is my biggest coping method. I find that if my concentration is not split, like if I'm not distracted from my pain, then it's really hard to cope with it. So your pain scale is a 0 to 10, where 10 is the worst possible pain that you've ever experienced. I have heard fibromyalgia pain explained as worse than unmedicated childbirth. I've heard it explained as worse than terminal cancer patients' pain. My daily background noise is a 4. I have never experienced a pain-free day since I started to have really bad pain at the age of about 21. And again, I'm currently 30. So my average day is a 4. A 4 for me is just white noise. It's like that buzz that you get in the back of your head if your ears are ringing. That's sort of how my pain feels on a regular basis. So in order for me to be able to function and not be distracted by my pain, so not to feel the pain, as it were, I require my cell phone. Whether it's texting people and just chit-chatting with them, whether it's watching Netflix, whether it's listening to music, whether it's playing just a random, I don't have to think about it game while I'm having a conversation with someone, I have to have my phone. If I am in a social situation in which my phone is inappropriate, so whether I'm out to dinner and a movie, whether I'm at a party, etc., etc. If I am not distracted, so if I'm not engaged in a conversation or learning something or watching a really good movie, then I'm going to feel the pain. And the more I feel the pain, the more irritated I get, the more nauseous I might get, the more persnickety I might get, the more moody I'm going to get. So if I'm out at the movies, it's going to have to be a movie that I'm fully engaged in, that has my full attention. So I'm really picky about what movies I see out. If I'm out to dinner, then we have to be chit-chatting. If you're not keeping if you're not fully engaging me in what's going on, then I'm going to hurt. And if I hurt, then I get upset. And nobody wants to be sitting at dinner with somebody who's in a bad mood. One of my favorite things to do to engage without having to use my cell phone is actually to play hangman with whoever I'm out with. It's a way to engage your date, and it's a way to get to know each other because you start to learn how they think, depending on what category they choose. I know it seems silly, but it's a really good way to have a really good date without having to worry about talking too much. Today I am talking about fibromyalgia. It's an illness that I suffer from. It's an illness that a lot of people suffer from. To get you started in an education, take a look at this link. It's the wiki, and it's actually really informative and a really good place to start. Hangman is kind of a cute way to get to know someone. I've been doing it for a few years now. My fiance, actually, it's our standard thing when we go out. If we're not going to a restaurant like Jack Astor's or something that has tablecloths that are paper and crayons available, we will actually take a spare pen and paper so that we can play. We like to leave little clues for our servers as well, and sometimes the server will come over while one of us is stumped, and they'll say, is there anything else I can do for you? And we will often say, you can solve the problem for us, we're stuck here. It's a great way to have a social interaction with someone. Other coping methods when I'm having a really bad day are video games. I prefer first-person shooters that I don't have to think about, something like Borderlands or Bioshock or Bulletstorm or anything like that. I also play a lot of Minecraft. Minecraft is actually really good for folks with any kind of pain illness because the monotonous task of just digging a hole actually induces theta waves, which is where your mind meditates. So if you're in a meditative state, you're inducing theta waves. Something else that does that is knitting or crocheting or things like that. So that meditative trance that you can get into. Theta waves actually help to fight off pain as well. And I'm sitting here freezing, so I'm going to grab a blanket. Minecraft makes you dizzy, you say. Are you playing on a computer or on a console? Because I find that a console makes me dizzy. I play it on a computer instead. Too bad, I've already got my blanket. You're not here to stop me, so. One of the first things that I did when I started playing on the computer was change my mouse settings. I found that if my mouse sensitivity was too high, it would make me dizzy. But it is certainly something that you have to get used to. I don't know what else to tell you. There are other games that you can play that are not as four-dimensional, three-dimensional, I guess, that are not as dizzying. Any of the match 3 games I find are really good. So like Bejeweled, where's my phone here? Let's just take a look at the match 3 games that I have on here. Best Fiends, Fiends. Jungle Mania, Gemmyland, Jules Legend, Jules Deluxe, Blossom Blast, Crazy Kitchen, Hexa Blast. These are all really good games for just letting your brain zone out. Unfortunately, fibromyalgia is a lifelong illness. I'm not going to get better. I'll get better from my flu that I'm currently dealing with, but I won't get any better overall. Jenny, I am 30. I will be 30 next week. Where are my tissues? Oh no! I'm going to have to deal with a runny nose, apparently. Your tissues are over there. My tissues are over there. Well, thanks, Tat. You want to bring them here, please? Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for saying that I look so young. We can blame my mother for that. She's 51 and looks like my big sister. I'm not sad. I'm not a theist, I guess. I don't believe in God. I'm a pagan. But I do believe in a greater good, and I do believe in a larger power, and I'm not a why me kind of person. I don't generally get upset that I'm ill, because it's a struggle that I have to go through, but it makes me who I am. And I'm a big fan of who I am. I have no regrets in life. There are a couple of things that I probably shouldn't have done because there were consequences, but it's made me older and wiser, and I have a lot of gray hairs, and I've earned them all, and I'm keeping them, so there. You could after dinner. Okay, can you bring me something to eat too? Because I haven't eaten today, and I'm going to get in shit for that. Jenny, feel free to call in if you want to ask some other questions. I had creamer in my coffee. That's calories. That counts, right? I was starving yesterday. Today I'm just really not hungry. And that's one of the things that comes along with fibromyalgia, is that the higher my pain is, the less hungry I am. Now, I should eat. I should eat a regular, balanced diet, and I do generally try to. But some days I don't succeed. I try, really I do. Oh, come on, there was a lot of creamer in it. I appreciate your standpoint, Siobhan, but I don't believe what you believe. Everybody has different beliefs. Oh my goodness, Jenny. I'm so sorry to hear that, because fibro sucks. But at the same time, I'm really glad that you haven't had any of the immunity issues. Be careful with your treatments, because some of them can have immunity issues. So like they've started a new steroid treatment with me, so my immunity is even lower than it used to be. I'm used to being sick all the time. Like I get the flu, and then a week later I get a cold, and then a week later I get something else. And part of that's my own fault for hanging out with kids, because they are little plague rats. But I insist on making the best of every day. There are going to be days when I can't function because I'm too sick, but on the days that I can function, I insist on making the most of that. So if that means snuggling with my nephew who's going to get me sick so that I'm out for a week, too freaking bad. It's worth the snuggles. He loves me and I love him, and it's worth it just to see the smile on his face. I will try not to interact with kids if I know that I have commitments to live up to. So like, brain. Coming up onto Christmas, I generally try not to be around kids until Christmas, so that if I'm going to be sick, I'm sick after Christmas. So like the illness that I have right now, I picked up over Christmas because I was hanging out with my kids who were running fevers. But too bad. They're my kids, and I'm going to do it. There are days that I'm in so much pain that my brain is so foggy and I can't remember what's going on. People will say, oh, we talked about such and such. I'm sure we did, and I'm really sorry that I don't remember. But if I've made a commitment to you, by all means, make sure that I've put it on the calendar, because I'm not going to remember that we had that conversation. I'm really bad at having to tap out last minute. So my yeses are always a health depending yes. Hold on, somebody's pinging me on another chat program. Yay! Sorry, I'm just trying to deal with an event invitation. A friend of mine wants to go to a party that I'm not going to be able to attend, so I'm just making sure I can get them on to the invite list. And the person in charge just answered me back, so I'm just trying to make sure that that's dealt with. What was I saying? Things, I'm sure. So yeah, my yes to an event always has to be health depending. Hell, I'm supposed to be hosting my own birthday party this weekend, and I'm going to be so sick that I'm going to end up in a corner somewhere just going, just somebody keep pouring whiskey into me, and I'll be fine. Jenny, you said you were just diagnosed. How long did it take you from the time you started having issues to the time that you were diagnosed? An IV drip of whiskey? Yes, please. Or vodka. Vodka's fine. So long as it's not gin, I'm usually easy to get along with. Sorry, still trying to deal with invitation stuff. I'm the social manager for my entire group, so everything apparently revolves around me. So yeah, Jenny, how long did it take them to diagnose you? Oh, it's just the two of us now. I lost Jenny. That's why she hasn't answered. Oh, Tet, looks like it's just you and I. That's not what I wanted. Hey guys, I'm sitting here talking about fibromyalgia and me. If you have questions, come on over. There, I think that was a GIF. We'll see how it worked. And the answer is awesome. I'll do 1 sec. Alright, so I need the email address from my phone to give to this gentleman so that it's done, and then I'm finished that particular obligation. Information. So it was. Nope. Yeah. There we go. That's done with. Yay. 47 followers, but only 2 people actually viewing right now. Pretty sure that's how that works. I don't know. 47 total viewers and 2 people who are watching it live. That's cool. So some people have started at the beginning of the recording, so they're not live in the chat. They're watching us a few seconds behind, probably. Where are we? Awesome, thank you. So I can tell him that he's okay to go. What else about fibromyalgia? I am a fairly intelligent human being, I like to think. I was labeled as gifted in school, and yet there are days that I struggle to follow a conversation. There are days that I struggle for easy words, something as simple as water. Dysphagia or temporary aphasia is often part of cognitive dysfunction. So you mean one word but say another. So I might say dishwasher when I meant wrench. I might say wrench when I meant TV. And somehow in my mind there's a connection. But as someone who makes a living communicating with people, it's really frustrating. I used to work in the customer service industry, whether it was at a cafe or on phones doing customer support. And having your cognitive abilities is sort of important in a job like that. So it's especially frustrating when I never know what's going to trigger a brain lapse. I can be at the grocery store and suddenly feel as though I'm high as a kite and not able to function. At one point, I was afraid to go out alone in case I had a really bad lapse and was not able to function. Thankfully, my smartphone is my savior. Between the ability to simply phone home, the ability to figure out where I am with the locator beacon, the ability to figure out where the nearest hospital is, where the nearest grocery store is, etc., etc., is a lifesaver for me. I would be a complete shut-in if it were not for the fact that I have a smartphone. Something as simple as I have a cane that folds up and goes in my backpack so that if I'm out and I suddenly have issues with my balance or with numbness or with muscle weakness, then I have the cane and I don't have to feel trapped in my own body. There are times when I do need a wheelchair. There are times when I would really appreciate having a walker. So if we go to, say, the zoo or to Wonderland or to any sort of museum or anything like that where I'm required to be on my feet for an extended period of time, I do use one of the on-site wheelchairs that are available. But otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it. Same thing for something like IKEA. The place is so huge, it's like walking around an amusement park. Does the numbness happen a lot? A lot is dependent upon your ability to manage your symptoms. When I'm managing my symptoms well, it doesn't happen too often. It usually only happens when I have a trigger like the weather changing. So the area that I live in, the barometric pressure shifting happens a lot, especially this last few years, because there's been a lot of issues with temporal change, etc. But the numbness is certainly one of the first symptoms that I experience as far as physical symptoms go. I can generally tell that I'm going to have a bad day if I wake up and have either numbness in my left side or numbness in an area. So like my fiance will touch my back and I'll realize that that particular area is apparently numb and I can't feel it. It used to happen a lot before I was able to manage my symptoms. It does happen a lot if I am emotionally upset or if I'm pushing things. So I'm going to have a really fun time on Saturday for my birthday party. So for the next few days, I'm probably going to have a lot of numbness because I'm going to tax my body. I'm going to have a lot to drink. I'm going to be up late. I'm going to be partying. And I'm going to be silly. But it's worth it because I'm not going to not have fun on the good days just so I don't have bad days. For me, it's all about quantity versus quality. I'm not going to live every day sitting on my butt doing nothing just so I don't have bad days. I hope that answers your question, Ted. A bit. Well, if you would like to ask the question or a different way or have me elaborate on some aspect. Now to figure out how to reword it. It must be getting a lot colder outside. It's suddenly really cold in here. Does the numbness affect my entire body? Worst case scenario, it generally only affects about 50% of my body. Generally speaking, for me, the left side. Every once in a while, it will shift over to the right side. And it usually is as sudden as someone flipping a switch. And I have no earthly idea why that is, but I didn't take biology, so I don't necessarily understand all of how my body works. I do understand that it's usually the opposite side of your strong side. So for me, my right side is my strong side. I'm right-handed. So it's my left side that is generally affected, which is sort of good in that I'm used to having to compensate for my left side anyway because I'm not left-handed. It generally affects me from head to toe, only on my left side. So like right now, I am feeling weakness in my left side because I was pushing it this morning. I was doing a lot of chores around my room. We'll call it my apartment because it's pretty much the size of a bachelor apartment. Because I was feeling a little bit better today, but I pushed it a little too far. So I'm having weakness in my left side. I'm having to concentrate when I pick something up because I don't have all of the strength, so I don't have a full grip. So I could easily drop my cup, which is part of why I have these lovely spill-free cups. And if I'm typing on my phone one-handed right now, I would need to use my right hand because my left hand isn't as articulate. I'm pretty sure that if I were to smile right now, you would notice a difference left to right, so this side would droop a bit. And you'll notice that my left side of my face isn't as articulate or emotive as the rest of my face while I'm talking. Generally speaking, it starts in my leg and moves up, though there are times when it starts in my face and moves down. And again, I don't understand why the difference. Sometimes it has to do with how I'm sitting, so it's probably a pinched nerve or something, or exacerbated by the original problems. I have a lot of issues with pain and pinched nerves to begin with. So pain already is an inflammation of the area. So if I'm having pain in my back, it might inflame to the point where it's pinching a nerve, which is then causing the numbness. But again, it's all exacerbated by me pushing myself too hard. That's easier said than done. Don't push myself too hard. There are times when something just needs to be done. And I'm not the only one who will tell you that. You ask Kaylin. She is one of the people that pushes probably hardest in my particular circle. She's an erotica writer. She's a stay-at-home mom of 2 children. And she is only able to take a couple of different medications because she's a United States citizen and has yet to get her citizenship here in Ontario, so she's not covered by meds. And I'm always telling her, don't push it, don't push it, don't push it. And she'll be the first one to tell you that sometimes you just have to get shit done. The dishes aren't going to wash themselves. Hello, Robert Hamilton. I have a pretty good idea who that probably is. Do you have any questions for us today about fibromyalgia and how to manage it on a day-to-day basis or anything else like that? Nope, no questions. Just came to listen to me yammer. People are texting me. Nothing too important. All right, bye, Tet. Don't forget my dinner. Mwah! So we've got 50 people who are watching me not live. You should come and talk to me live so I can answer your questions. All right, what else to babble about? Fibro affects everybody differently. Pregnancy is the type of example that I like to use. No 2 pregnant people end up with the same symptoms. You will end up with a lot of crossover between pregnant people where they experience similar symptoms. So like most people will experience back pain. Most people will experience acid reflux. Most people will experience sleeplessness. So with fibromyalgia, that's the same sort of thing. So most people will experience these different symptoms. Sleep disturbance, so insomnia, an inability to achieve REM sleep, night terrors, etc., etc. These are all symptoms that a lot of people experience. I actually take a sleep aid almost every single night because otherwise I would never get enough restorative sleep and I would just be a zombie all the friggin' time. Since I started taking the sleep aid, I've actually noticed a huge difference in my overall health. And my ability to recoup from something as simple as the flu. So normally I would have the flu for 2 to 3 weeks. I'm only at the 1.5-week mark and I'm already starting to feel better. Knock on wood. I take ZQuil. The active ingredient is the same stuff in Benadryl. I generally have to take more than most human beings. I've always been resistant to drugs. So they tell you to take 1 to 2 tablets. I always take 2 tablets because otherwise I wouldn't sleep. Welcome, Saif. Is that how I'm saying it? And I have to take it 2 to 3 hours before I expect to be asleep. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So my general bedtime for myself is 3 a.m. because I keep a schedule with my fiance, and he doesn't get home until late because he's on late night schedule for work. So I have to take the sleep aid by midnight, 1 o'clock if I expect to be asleep for 3 a.m. And since I've started taking it, I honestly feel so much better. I will never get a good night's sleep because I'm in so much pain while I'm sleeping that I wake up a lot. I have to shift around, and if I sleep too deeply and I don't shift around, then I pay for it. Then I pay for it in the morning. I'll be so stiff and so sore that I can't function. I'm also supposed to get a machine for sleep apnea. I know that, and I will eventually, I promise. But again, I've got the cost to think about. So it's an out-of-pocket cost for me. So I do have to be careful about what I can do and what I can't do at a time. I can only afford out of pocket so much. So I have to take my vitamins every day, otherwise I get sick. And I do feel like crap if I run out of something. I ran out of, what was it? I ran out of my multivitamin just before I started taking the steroid shots, and the steroid shots already tax your body's ability to process regular supplements, so they actually suggest that you do take a multivitamin to make up for that. And within a week of having started the steroid shots, I was getting muscle cramps all the time, and realized that it had correlated with my having run out of daily vitamin supplement. So I started taking it again. And it would not believe how much difference something as simple as forgetting to take my vitamins can make it in my overall health in just one day, never mind a week. Definitely have to remember to take my daily pain regime. I take one every 24 hours and one every 12. And if I miss it, oh dear God, I'm very cranky. I'm very disorganized. I'm very disoriented. And I can't function. And being able to function is sort of what coping with fibromyalgia is all about. What time is it? I've been doing this for about an hour, I guess. So it might be time to log off because there's nobody hanging out with me. As I say that, somebody logs in. Hello, my dear. Do you have any questions for me, or am I safe to log out? Apparently I'm safe to log out. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I am going to log off for now. But I absolutely want to come back and do this again on a fairly regular basis. Let's say once every 2 weeks for now. So I will store up some frequently asked questions and I will answer those. You can reach me by email if you want to send in questions. thenerdycompanion@gmail.com. That's thenerdycompanion@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, direct message me on Twitter, however you want to reach me. If you can find me in social media, reach out. Thanks very much for tuning in today, and I hope I was able to educate and help somebody today. Have a great day. Bye.